there's just a few things that I wanted to bring in to today's class. One of them was, as we're doing this, that it's not just about downsizing everything. And hi, how is everybody, by the way? But it's not about downsizing. It's not about stripping away your life and making it feel like your life didn't matter. It's not about that. It's about nourishing and finding the poetry of your life. That is really what we're doing, is finding the essence, the joy, the poetry. And this week, as I was going through reading her book, and oh my gosh, did she have some good insights. I was thinking about my own family and the things that when my family has passed on, what I kept and why I kept it. And if you'll notice, I have a little pendant right here. This is my Saint Rita pendant. So I cleaned out my aunt that had the poem, my mom and I cleaned out her whole house. I could have probably taken anything I wanted from her house, but what I kept is this pendant, because in her garden, and this was always how I remembered my aunt, she had this little statue of what was the Saint Rita. And Saint Rita was the saint of anything is possible. And so when I found this little pendant, it represented my aunt so much, because she was always the aunt of anything is possible. She was always creative and thinking. And so if my aunt would have tried to guess what to give me, there's no way she would have thought this tiny little pendant, which had no monetary value at all, would be the thing that I wear and use all the time. When I need to feel like anything is possible, I bring Aunt Velma with me. I cleaned out my grandma's house, and she would have, in thought, tried to guess what I would have most valued. She would have tried to give me something that was the most valuable, but I kept this. This is an aluminum measuring cup, and I have it in my kitchen. And of course, I don't know why I always cry when I do this, but every time I'm in my kitchen, I use my little aluminum baking thing, because when I cleaned out my grandma's stuff, I was looking for all of her baking goods. She was always baking, and she had this and a Pyrex cup, and that's what she did all of her baking with. She measured everything. And so this just represents my grandma's creativity and her wisdom of simplicity. And the other thing I kept was a duck. But if my grandma would have tried to guess what to give me, there's no way she would have given me an old duck that she's like, it was this stupid duck I painted, and it was this old thing. That was not, but for me, it was the essence of my grandma. She became an artist when she retired. She was blind and she was painting because she had this desire to be creative in her life and share her life, and she couldn't do it until she retired, and that's when her creativity flourished. And so when I think of my grandma, I think of this duck, and she became this amazing artist, and she couldn't see anything. That's what I remember. It's the essence of my grandma that I'm holding. It's not the weight of her stuff. And so when you're thinking about your kids, there's no way you can guess what the essence of you is that they want. So that's why you have to have the conversations, and that's why leaving them things that you want them to have may not be the essence of what truly reminds them of you and your legacy. So I just wanted to share that because it's a really big thing, and there's science to back it up. So apparently, only 50% of our memories are accurate. We kind of make up our memories as we go. So if you've ever been in a family where you're all in the same event, but nobody remembers it's the same way, it's because only about 50% of our memories are accurate. So when you're in the same, you're like, oh, that was the best time ever. But to your kids, it might have been, yeah, had the stomach flu and I had a rock in my shoe the whole day. It wasn't a great day for me, you know? And the other thing is, you try to guess what somebody's emotion is. We always think we have ESP of, I know you're feeling this way. Apparently we're 80% wrong. The science says we're 80% wrong of guessing what other people's emotions are. 80%. We're really kind of bad at it. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with everybody, that it's the essence, it's the poetry we're trying to keep in this downsizing. So while we go, let's just pop right into it. So our first session, we're going to go right into I guess we're going to stop recording here. And then we're going to go into our first breakout room. So in the breakout room, I want you to introduce yourself and share one thing that you are good at or that you enjoy doing. And then the second thing is, what did you do last week that you're proud of? Something that you felt good, that was satisfying. It doesn't have to be big. It can be a tiny thing. It could be just be that I read 3 chapters in the book. Fine. I cleaned out something. It's not big. It's that something that felt good, that you felt satisfied that you did. So I think Amanda's going to post those 2 questions in the book, and then we'll come back and have more juicy conversation. So thank you guys. And thank you for being here. I love that we have this group, because clutter clearing, holy cow, I know how hard that is, because it emotionally weight, it just gets you stuck, and it's heavy, and it takes energy and support to pull you out. So just think of us all as like branches pulling each other out of this. So one of the beautiful things about this group is we get to share ideas, and I got 2 great ones, and these are both in the, I guess they're units or files. They're called files in our Facebook group. The first one came from Gina Milano, and it was a poem. And this is the poem. And I think we could read this every day. So it says, my grandmother once gave me a tip. In difficult times, you move forward in small steps. Do what you have to, little by little. Don't think about the future or what may happen tomorrow. Wash the dishes, remove the dust, write a letter, make a soup. You see, you are advancing step by step. Take a step and stop. Rest a little, praise yourself, take another step, then another. You won't notice, but your steps will grow more and more. And the time will come when you can think about the future without crying. And this is from Elena Mikolova. This is where I need Susan to give me the translation here. It's in the thing, but isn't that nice? And it's just a reminder. And Margareta talks about that book this week, that chapter about when her husband died, and she had a death clean her own home, and her kids were living out of the area, and she had to do it step by step. I love that chapter. I thought that chapter was so rich, of like her kind of talking through of that. Maybe it was better that I did it myself, and I can do it. And how she did one room at a time, and she consistently gave herself time. It's not like a race. It's not like we have to get this done by 3. Give yourself space and make it a rhythm of doing, where she would do one room at a time. And then I love that she said, and then she would pause and rest. She would give herself nourishment of like, this is not a doing task. You're not taskmasters. This was a feeling like you've accomplished something, and then resting and celebrating. Speaking of celebrating, question. When you all think about cleaning clutter, are you excited about it, or are you wishing it would go away? Give me thumbs up if you're excited about me, and give it an O face if you wish it would just kind of go away.
Comes and goes. It depends on what I'm decluttering.
Right. Exactly. So sometimes it can feel overwhelming, and sometimes it can just feel like you're just biting at the bit to get it done. It kind of depends on what you're doing. But a lot of times it is heavy. What we're thinking about makes such a big difference. So one of our challenges this week is going to be reframing how we're calling our work. So it's something fun, because if you think about it, when you're going to go do something, like whether you're doing paperwork or going into memorabilia or a space that you haven't been for a long time, you might be thinking about what decisions am I going to have to make? What emotional thing is it going to bring up that I'm not going to really want to see? And so a lot of times we think in terms of how hard it's going to be, or how emotionally draining it's going to be. But what I found, and I think this is the best part of this whole thing, is I don't think I've ever done a job or worked in my own house that I didn't find something that was lost, a memory that was exciting, some kind of cherished idea. Today, I had an aha moment, and that's why I'm talking about this. Is I have a client who's remodeling her kitchen, and I have a resource for doing like the internal cabinets. I had put that in this tiny box up on my bookcase. And then today I was just tidying up, and I didn't know where I put it. And I'd be like, how did you lose it? There's nothing over here. And I found it. And it was like a tiny uncluttering made a discovery. And that happens all the time. So when you're cleaning out, how many times do you clean out and you find something that you lost? I hear that all the time. It's like, oh, I've been looking for this forever. Here you are. Or, oh, I remember this. Or, oh my goodness. Or sometimes in cluttering, you learn things about yourself of like, I used to do that. I remember when I used to paint, or it just gives you clues. And so instead of thinking that this is a task, I want us to start thinking of this is a treasure hunt. This is a searching for gold ideas and discovering and finding, and shifting from instead of I have to I get to, I want to, I'm so excited to, that shift of whether this is a chore or this is a blessing. The difference is nothing to do with the task at hand. The difference has everything to do with how to take it on. Does that make sense? It's like
Yes.
it's reframing our frame of reference of how we even approach it. One of my beloved clients, I love working, I love what I do. Um, we were going to clean out her hallway closet. And it was funny. It was just so fun to hear her process it because she was like, okay, and I'm going to see you in like a couple weeks. We're going to do that hallway closet. And I've been thinking about it. I know it's going to be hard. I've been kind of giving myself to be up to do it. And she just was expecting it was going to be really difficult. So came up and we did it, and it was so fast and so easy, and she was like amazed. It was like, well, that was easy. There wasn't, and it was like there wasn't near as much processing as she thought, and it went quicker. I think we did the whole closet in like an hour, which was, amazing how quick it went. But I thought about that later. I'm like, she spent so much time and energy pre-cleaning out the closet that she spent 2 full weeks cleaning out that closet, and it actually only took an hour's worth of work. So how much time and energy do we spend thinking about it, and how much time and energy do we spend doing it? So I want to minimize how much time we spend thinking about it. So on our times when we're off, to be off, because we can't be working all the time. And then when we're working, we're fully functioning there. We're 100% present when we're working, and we can get it done quicker. But when we're not working, that we're not just ruminating in our head. Yes, Janet, awesome. Because it's so true. We'll just keep crank. And we do the same. I mean, I do the same thing. How much time do I spend thinking about my to-do list instead of actually to doing my to-do list? Because the thinking about it, I can think about how much I have to do in my work week, and I can be exhausted before Monday even begins, and I haven't done anything but just think about how much work I've got to do. That's ridiculous. So we need to start thinking about when we're not working, we're not working. What is it? It's like I don't know if it's a Buddha thing. It's like when you're sitting, sit, when you're standing, standing, but don't wobble. So we need to stop wobbling, So if we're working, we're working. If we're playing, we're playing. If we're resting, we're resting. If we're talking to somebody, we're talking to somebody. But we're not going to just sit around wobbling all the time of like. And speaking of wobbling, when we're working, the number one thing that will keep us from being effective clutter clearers is distractions. So make sure you're shutting off your TV, you're shutting off all of your phones, your messages, your computers, and you don't have other people. You're not doing 50 zillion different things at a time. When you're working, you're 100% focused on what you're doing and how long you're going to work. And when you're off, you're off. It's that clarity, because muddled energy, clutter brings muddled energy. And so you have to do some serious counter work to unclutter that time, so that you can actually have time to, you can have the focus to do it, because the muddledness of the space makes your brain be distracted. It's fragmenting of your energy. And so the practice is to be very clear and be 100% present while you're working, and then only work when you're working, and go play when you're not, and try to find ways to enjoy. Does that make sense? So it's not hard. Yeah, right? I love it. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go back into the next session, because I want to have more time for us to all chat. We want to have more question time. So this next session, I want you to share what was one aha moment from this book, maybe a favorite idea or quote. And then what is one thing you want to accomplish this week? What is the thing that's kind of speaking to your soul of, I really want to get that done this week? So those are the two questions. Again, what is an aha moment of the book? And we won't have a ton of time to talk. So, it'll be kind of quick little snips of what was the aha moment and what do you want to accomplish this week? Some of the in our group kind of came up of like the emotion of this, that going through this is very emotional, sometimes going through our stuff, and then also having conversations with our parents and kids. There's a lot of emotions that come up. So the beautiful thing about clutter clearing is it helps us process our life. So in sleeping, when we sleep, the sleeping, the dreaming and being asleep is actually where we process a lot of our life. So every day, if you're sleeping well, you're processing life and you don't have as much stress on yourself. You're able to handle because you're processing as you go. By cleaning out your home, you're also processing your life. And I know it feels like sometimes there's more weight towards the emotions that might be heavy, but it's just that those are the ones that kind of bring our attention. But being able to have these conversations with our kids and our parents, and our spouses about how to move forward, and making these tougher conversations is well worth it. But really, when emotions get stuck on your body, it weighs you down. Our emotions are meant to flow, our lives are meant to flow, and clutter is really a stagnation of emotions in your house. And so by undoing the clutter, you're actually freeing up your life to get back on track and start flowing again. It's a very profound practice of shifting it and getting it back and being able to have those conversations. I do want to share a little bit about if you have parents or you are a parent, having conversations with each other about helping. In the book, she mentions about, I think it was on the chapter of how to discuss the topic of death cleaning. And, just having that conversation is huge for all of us. But I loved what she says. Is there anything we can do in a slow way, um, together in a slow way, so there won't be too many things to handle later? What a nice way to approach it with your parents or with your kids, that you're more thinking about a community thing to, if you're talking to your kids about like making their future burden much lighter. So we're going to do it as a tiny project together to make it so you don't have to deal with all this. And if you're doing it with your parents, I like that slow way of thinking, like, I'm not going to come in and just, because a lot of parents, when I talk to parents, they're like, my kids just want to come in and fix me. And it's not really about coming in and fixing me. It's about having gentle conversations and at their pace and at their own time. I had one of my clients, I have a young couple I coach, and he wanted to help his mom, and he was going to hire me to help his mom. But with the conversation, what was really better was to ask his mom what she needed help with. Because instead of hiring me to come fix her, what she needed was a conversation of, what do you need help with, mom? And then what he did was he went up to visit with her and spent 3 hours with her, helping her clean out her garage. And what I know from clutter clearing, it builds deep relationships. It is a very special time together because you have memories and you're having conversations, you're doing shared work. Some of my favorite times is working with my families. We're working together. So you're working together, you have a very clean thing, maybe like 3 hours of cleaning out a garage. He said she was so happy. He was happy. They got something accomplished. They both felt so nourished. So maybe scheduling consistent times of helping either parents or your kids, just working together in small pockets where it's not overwhelming to either one of you. So that was my last thought I really wanted to bring to today, except to continue to add this joy back in there. And then now, if we want to stop the recording, I want to just kind of open it up to questions, conversations. And they said that She likes a tidy house. She feels best in a tidy house, but she also was a little envious of people that didn't need quite such a tidy house. So sometimes, I mean, this is a non-judgmental thing of like, where do you feel best in your house? Not does it look the best for other people? It's how do you feel in your house? Because everybody's got what feels good. Some people are like more minimal and some people are like more cozy. And if you're married, there's an interesting balance there. But it's about how you feel, and there's not really a right or wrong here. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was wondering, how do you trick yourself into getting started? Because once I get going, I'm good, but I avoid getting started. So,
That is the best question. I love that question. So, best thing advice I can do you is if you have to kiss a frog, do it first thing in the morning, do it quick, do it fast. So the easiest way to do this is make it so it's systematically. You schedule a time where you do not have to think. It's like you put one foot in front of the other. So the tidying up of the house is easiest like first thing in the morning. So you don't think about it. You just do it. It becomes rhythmic and ritual, or you set a specific time. I have a lot of customers right now, or clients that are moving and they're trying to think about downsizing their whole house. So on moving day, it's not so overwhelming. And so we just have a schedule, like one of my clients on Sundays from 1 to 3 is her downsizing time. And so she's just consistently setting a block of time, giving that a home. So she consistently does her projects where it's not like she's not doing it all the time, but for 2 hours every week, she specifically does it. Does that help?
yeah.
Okay.
I like to also
Hey,
set up a
hey,
reward for
Susan.
myself, something I
Yes.
really want to do, and then I'll get that reward if I do this one thing first.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. So making it satisfying, making it feel like, oh, if I do this, then I get to have a cup of tea and I get to sit and read a book and maybe have a piece of chocolate, make it fun.
So one thing that I did, because I was having a hard time getting started, is I started in the least emotional place. So for me, I have to go through my whole house. I
Mhm.
started in the bathroom
Sweet.
because for me that was like the least emotional place where I could like readily make the decisions yes or no.
Yeah.
So for me that really helped, and I've just kind of put off the more emotional things until I have some momentum underneath my belt and feel like a little more confident.
That's brilliant. Did everybody hear that? She started with the thing that was the least hard, or I think either that or the most satisfying. What will feel the best or is the least hard. And then don't do the hard stuff at the beginning, because what we're doing is we're doing consistent, we're building habits. We're building, like she said, like Theodora, you just said, building momentum, you build strength. This is no different than like training for a marathon. You don't start by running a marathon. You start by going out the door and walking 5 minutes and then 10 minutes and then 15 minutes. And then before you're like, oh, this is easy. You're building no neuron pathways in your head. You are literally building new habits. So that's why I'd much rather have go slow and go sweetly through this and make it so it's enjoyable, because you're changing the habit. I don't want you to become efficient and still hate it. I want you to become enjoyable. So this is enjoyable, it's efficient, and it's easy, and it's nourishing to your life. This isn't about like, okay, now we're joining a concentration camp. No, this is our lives. In the process of living, we're cleaning out, and that is part of the process of living.
I was
Any other?
going to say too, the expectations, like, especially when I brought my second child home, my expectations were brought way down with the level of cleanliness of, mopping the floor, sometimes spot cleaning, often, and then, yeah, when you're attacking like a bear like that, I've found myself, gosh, well, I didn't get to do these other things to fully clean this space, but at least with what I did accomplish in that time. So yeah.
And what you said is absolutely true. I mean, every part of our life is going to be different. If you've got little ones at home and you're working full time, your house is going to look different than if you are retired and you are a quilter. You know what I mean? If you've got 5 dogs or you travel all the time, well, you know what I mean? It is where you are in your life, and so give yourself grace. If you're not getting any sleep and you've got 3 kids and you're working full time, just do your best. Try to do it in tiny little segments. Prevent as much as you can, and be nice to yourself, because it's not going to be perfect. Any Any other thoughts of wisdom that's popping in? Oh, Jeanette?
Yes. One thing I don't know if you guys have talked about this because I missed last week, but a, a lot of things, a long time ago, I learned that you want to get boxes, or I like to use these stiff bags, and you can get a piece of paper and label it, donate, trash, other room. That way you can just sit where you're at, get those spread out. And then when you have the moment, okay, this is my donate, throw this in the car, this is trash, let me dump it out. And then the other things, and you can go back if you really need to spend time emotionally with it, you can work on that bag. But the stuff that's a little too much, just put it there, and it's just a little box or a little bag, and you can hang it in another spot. And when you're sitting down on the couch or in your bedroom and you think, it's okay to do this now. I'm in a time where I can grieve this or make a better decision. And that way that area gets done. And then you only have a small little bag or box to deal with that emotional situation that you need to deal with. So the
I like
decision doesn't have to be that moment if it's too much, because then sometimes you sit there and it just drains you because you don't know how to make the decision, and then this whole thing stays a mess instead of going, you know what, I need to deal with this when I'm ready, but I can keep going.
Yeah.
And I learned that a long time ago, and it helps a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. And I like what you said about having boxes there. So like you were saying, Nancy, about if you have ADHD, how do you keep focused? One of them is not leaving to distribute while you're downsizing. So you don't go like, oh, I got to take this back to the kitchen. So what Jeanette was saying is having a box of things that to be distributes, and what Susan was saying, you have a box of things you're going to distribute after, so you don't have to leave the area. And then also what you were saying, Jeanette, is really good of, if sometimes you might come across the letters from your grandmother, well, that's going to stop the process while you're doing it. So maybe don't process that right then. Go ahead and put it to process at a more gentle time where you can actually enjoy that. Another tip that comes up is if like you're doing clothes or you're doing a quick sweep, just get a big bag, something that's very distinguished of color or look. And if you don't know what to do with it, just throw it in there. Make sure it's very specific what it is. Like, I'll think about that in 6 weeks, or I'm not quite sure. If in 6 weeks or 6 months you haven't done anything, you can either just get rid of the bag or do a quick sort. But sometimes we need to process something because you haven't seen it for a long time. And that doesn't mean you're not going to get rid of it, but you haven't seen it and you're not quite ready. So it's kind of that tweener of like, don't spend too much time on things that are in that tweener. Get rid of what you can, and then maybe you either want to process it more or set it aside and rethink about it in a couple weeks.
exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other? So I think we are a little bit we kind of got a later start today, but any other thoughts you want to have? You know, if I can offer one suggestion, is really learning to enjoy the process, finding ways to make it satisfying, make it fun, make it nourishing, make it so you don't have to think about it anymore. And keep going. And that's the key, is keep making progress. Even if it's just reading one chapter in the book, if the only thing you do is just read one chapter, this isn't a race or a competition of, oh, this person got this much done. And this isn't. We go at our own pace, at our own life, who we are. And if just reading one chapter is what you can do, then we are going to celebrate you as much as if you cleaned out your own house. Every little bit counts. I was a runner in high school, and running was easy to me. And so I got a lot of like pats on the back of like, good job. But I always knew that the person who came in last worked harder and had a stronger spirit than I ever did. I knew that. And so there's no right or wrong here. It's that you keep coming and you show up with your heart and you keep poetry in it. You keep joy in it. You keep bringing back that satisfaction of living, and you learn to love your life in the process. This isn't about getting this done so we can live our life. No, this is about loving the process of actually processing our life and being in everything. So it's not like this is work. This becomes our nourishing joy. And when we learn to nourish and love our work, that is when this becomes so rich. And having a community like this, where we have all these kindred spirits coming together doing the same thing, I mean, this is so beautiful that we can do that. So please, everybody, get part of Facebook group If you don't know how to get to it, get a hold of Jeanette or me or Amanda. We'll get you in that group. If you have before and after pictures, post it. If you find a poem that makes you just heart, if you have something that comes up that speaks to you, if you have a shared interest, bring it into this group, because like we're all doing this together, and it helps us to have a community, because we're isolated. COVID separated, but in some ways it's given us a gift. And thank you guys. So
Thank
homework
you.
next week. So read through page 46, and this is all posted in the Facebook group under lists. I think it's under lists. It says next week. Read through page 46, reframe how you're doing it, turning it into a lightful thing, add more fun to it, keep with the 15 minutes of tidying up every day, and include a pocket of uncluttering of that one project that just feels so good to you. And anything else you want to do or something else, just keep going.
Just quick, or I don't know, if anybody needs someone to talk to while you're doing it, I know that helps me a lot. If you want to, I guess we can do that on the Facebook group. If you want to, like, hey, I've got 1 o'clock, I want to get this done. It'd be easier if I was distracted. We can connect that way too. I'm welcome to.
Thank you.
to
And
make
so that
connection.
would be, we could have buddies within the group of like, at 10 o'clock on Saturdays, let's go 10 o'clock on Saturdays. We're going to be doing a little pocket. So if anybody wants to put in a challenge, like Thursday is at 2, I'm going to be clutter clearing for an hour. Who wants to join me? I mean, bring these groups together, even if you want to private message each other and be your supporting team. I mean, that's what
call, FaceTime, something.
Yeah, I was going to suggest the Facebook group is really conducive for that. So if you even wanted to, put something on the Facebook group like, hey, who's going to be cleaning today and wants to chat? Clutter buddies. I love that. Lindsay, Lindsay posted that in there.
Many hands make quick work. It's a family thing. Thank you. Great tips, great ideas. Thank you guys so much. Happy cleaning.
Thanks everybody.
Cool stuff.
Awesome. And if anybody had any questions, feel free to email myself, Jeanette. If you haven't received emails from Denise, Jeanette, or myself, then please put your email in the chat. I'll leave it open for about another minute so everybody had a chance to do that. And just, thank you. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, your energy. I did say I wanted to keep you in my pocket with like all of your energy, and now you're kind of, it's 2 days in a row I get to talk to you.